Monroe is a 100% disabled Marine Corps veteran and the CEO and founder of VETCOMM. Drawing from her own challenging journey of navigating the VA disability rating process, which took her over a decade, Kate established VETCOMM to simplify and fast-track access to the benefits that veterans deserve. With over 10 years of leadership experience and a deep commitment to empowering her fellow veterans, she leads VETCOMM's mission to remove barriers and help veterans get their rightful compensation with ease. Kate's unique blend of military service and business expertise drives VETCOMM's vision of transforming veteran benefit access for the better. Let's dig into the story behind VETCOMM and the passion that drives what we do. Okay, Kate, let's start with your personal story. Can you share with me a little bit about your military service?
Yeah, I went into the Marine Corps in 1998, back in the 1900s. Yeah, old veteran family now. I was actually in college when I made the decision. I was going to go into the Air Force, but the Air Force recruiter never did show his face. And so I ended up, through a crazy set of circumstances, going into the Marines. I ended up being in intelligence. I was a 2621 in the Marine Corps, which is an intelligence analyst. But while being in the service in boot camp, I broke 2 of my ribs falling at the Crucible, broke my right ankle, and then I smashed my nose and eye socket, lacerated my face playing softball on the Marine team. I was assaulted. I just had a lot of trauma, and all that stuff gave me IBS and GERD and just so many orthopedic and just injuries and so many internal emotional traumas that I ended up exiting the service early. And crazy, you guys just met my master sergeant this last weekend, who I hadn't seen in 24 years. He was retiring, and he said, Kate, I'm retiring, and I don't know that you're really safe here without me, but I'm getting out in 2 weeks. Would you let me get you out of the service? I know you're awaiting a med board. And I had to think, well, I'm giving up a lot by forfeiting this med board, but if he truly believes I'm not safe, which I likely wasn't, then I should take his advice. And he got me out of the service in about a week. And thank God he did, because now I'm still here, kicking for my fellow veterans. So it's just, I had a wild story, but I would definitely not go back and not do it again. If somebody said, hey, Kate, would you go in the military again? I would go in the Marine Corps again, even if it meant all this stuff would happen, because I wouldn't be here now, helping my fellow veterans. I wouldn't have a heart for what they had gone through. So, yeah.
So you're rated yourself now. How long after service did you get rated on your own?
I actually waited 11 years, and what drove me to get rated was not the same reason that other people get rated. I was trying to use the GI Bill, and it expired about a month before, because it expired a month before I wanted to use it, which was, as you can imagine, very disappointing. I had already been through all this stuff. I wasn't rated. I had to pay for all 7 surgeries to fix my face and take bone from my skull to even have a nose. So I was really let down. And it was my husband that said, hey, there's this program called vocational rehab that if you're rated, compensation, you can actually get this benefit, which will pay for you to go to school. So that's what drove me to do it. And I thought, well, I'll just get 10%. They're not going to give me anything. I thought 11 years being out was forever. I'd come to find out it isn't really that long. We get people rated that are 80, 90 years old. So I feel crazy thinking that now. And so I pursued it. It took the DAV about 18 months, because they waited for my record first, which they do. And then they made my claim. I got to 70%. And then I got myself over the next, maybe 10 years. Because I didn't know you could get re-rated at the time. So I just camped out at 70% for about 10 years. And then went back and got myself to 100% after trying many of the other services that ended up getting me nothing. So, yeah.
So you have firsthand experience of what it's like to get rated on your own and through free resources. So what were some of the main problems that you found in your personal VA rating journey that you were kind of getting hung up on?
Well, I think the first issue of it started with, I didn't know, after I gave up that med board, I did not know I could get rated. So I didn't even know. The era of veterans, my era of veterans sort of didn't know that, especially Marine Corps vets. I did not even know that was available to me. So I had to overcome that. Then when I found out I thought somehow other people served better than me. Other people served longer than me. Other people are heroes. I got out of the service, in not a way that I was trying to. So I had to get over the, do I deserve it? So I kind of fell into all these buckets that we talk about for these veterans. So it started there. So then when I finally said, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make the leap like we tell veterans to do. I'm going to get off of the bench. I went to the DAV 2 or 3 times because I waited so long in the waiting room that finally they timed out for the day. So by about the 3rd time I went there, I didn't have my military record. Then once I finally got there, they requested it. So about a year later, when my record came, I finally, made my claim, and they only claimed what was in the record. I later went and claimed all the things that weren't. You could claim things that are not in your record. And it took quite a long time, about 18 months, to get rated. Then when I finally, 10 years later, decided to come back, I went with a couple of the law firms. I'm not going to put them on blast here, as people would do to me. They would put me on blast. And they weren't able to really do much, and they never called me back and were really no help to me. So finally, I decided to pursue it on my own, got myself to 90, and then got myself to 100. And I think the thing that got me from 90 to 100, I had a pretty traumatic event happen to me, getting hit in the face and lacerating my face and going through all of that. But I think I did not think anybody would ever take my my military sexual trauma that seriously. I didn't think it would get rated. I didn't really want to talk about it. I didn't think it was going to be good for me. But when I finally decided, it was actually once I already started VETCOMM. So once I was telling other veterans, hey, let's get your MSTs rated, I had to look in the mirror and go, let's get your MST rated.
Oh, wow.
And so I flipped my PTSD to MST, and that's what took me to 100. So it was quite a long, lengthy journey. I did it about every way that you could do it.
Mm-hmm. So that's a little bit about your personal story that may have led up to the creation of VETCOMM. But let's talk a little bit about VETCOMM itself. How did VETCOMM happen?
So kind of crazy story. I had been in many different industries. I had been in and out of the auto industry and vacation, club industry, and, been speaking and writing books. And I decided to open my own dealership about 2 months before COVID started. That's the best time to open a business, right before a worldwide pandemic. Do that. But I put a massive banner on the side that said veteran owned and operated. And it was like a bat signal went off. I mean, veterans were coming out of the woodwork, active duty military personnel, and the veterans were having a hard time affording the car payment, or at least illustrating to the bank how they would pay for it. So I would say, hey, Frank, hey, Harold, hey, Dennis, do you have any of the disability compensation that I could add to this, this loan application? And they would say, what does that mean? Or no, I tried and failed. Or no, I didn't know. Or whatever their hang-ups were. About 200 people later, when I was helping people get rated so they could get a car, they kept bringing me people. And one day I said, is anybody rated? Like, how can every single person I talk to either not be rated or be underrated? How is that possible? So I said, what can be done about this? How do we get the word out? How do we help people in a meaningful way? How do we make it where there's more help than just the free guys? Because quite frankly, they're undermanned, undergunned, undertrained. And when VETCOMM was born, around the month I decided to sell my dealership. I put on a big board what I thought VETCOMM should do. And, all these years later now, we went from hardly being able to help anybody because we didn't really know how to get people to take us seriously, to now we've helped 18,000 veterans get $7 billion in lifetime income. And, we're fielding 200 suicide calls. We lobby for veterans. I mean, it's just like incredible what we've been able to do as a unit. I mean, 2 years ago we had 5 employees. Now we have 220. We have 220 employees serving veterans 12 hours a day, 7 days a week around the globe. I mean, it's pretty, you work here. Yep. It's pretty incredible what we do. You actually do all of our testimonials. Yep. So you actually get to hear all the good news, whereas the customer service, not so much. But you get to hear all of the great, the good word from VETCOMM. So that's how VETCOMM was born, just out of trying to provide a solution to people. Yeah.
So what would you say the core mission is of VETCOMM?
The core mission, I think, for VETCOMM is to stand in the gap and provide space and room for veterans to make a good decision and to be able to traverse the journey from where they are to safely get rated. And I know you might say, well, it's not unsafe. It is unsafe. It's unsafe emotionally for people. It's unsafe for people to get into a situation where maybe they're getting denied or getting paperwork they don't understand, or they're just sitting at home in a silo, like wondering, how is this going to work? And a lot of veterans, if they didn't have us, they would quit in the middle of the process. Their perfectionism and their anxiety, the VA preys on, we talk about this all the time, would keep them small and keep them poor. So I think that our job is to alleviate and take off of your plate the anxiety and bureaucracy and crap and put it on our plate, because we want to be bowling with bumpers. Veterans are out there throwing darts in the dark, and we want to flip the lights on and go, here, let me throw the dart. So that's really what we're there. We're there to be, a sounding board for people. A lot of times people call into customer service and they pretend like they have a problem, but they really just are lonely. And our staff's trained enough to know, hey, I'm going to give this person some grace and stay on the phone with them and give them a little bit of love. Because a lot of these people are losing their spouses. They're losing their brothers. They are losing friends that they know to suicide. And so we want to make sure that we provide enough room and space and grace to get people where they're trying to go.
So, you've been doing this now for a few years, helping veterans get rated, and you've probably heard stories of and talked to thousands and thousands of veterans at this point. Through VETCOMM, what would you say your favorite success story is to date?
Man, there's so many of them. I think one that stands out because it happens to be a veteran that's here in San Diego. It's still different when you meet people face to face than when you hear their story, third party. Sometimes I watch your testimonial videos with veterans and it touches me, or I see our chat and people are posting a someone's success story, or in our chaplain's corner, while we're praying for veterans and they overcome adversity. There's so many good success stories, but I think my favorite is I met this sweet old veteran, Floyd. I go on the news quite a lot. Some of the veterans know you've seen me on the news. I'm going on Fox tonight. He saw me on KUSI, local news here in San Diego. And I said, hey, if you need our help, call this number. Well, back when we were so small, it would go to me because I would kind of want to freak veterans out. They're like, oh my God, I'm talking to Kate. This is crazy. So I picked up the phone and this little old gentleman said, just VETCOMM. I said, this is VETCOMM. This is Kate. How can I help? He said, Kate from the news? I said, this is Kate from the news. I need your help. Oh, okay, great. Let's get you the help you need. He said, well, I have an intent to file, and this is the third one that's been made for me, and no one has ever filed my claim. And this is the third year in a row, and I'm 88 years old, and I need your help. And he said, but my intent to file expires tomorrow. And I said, well, do you have a car? I'm thinking, I'm going to send him an Uber. If he didn't have a way to get her, he's 88, I don't know. He said, I have a car. I said, well, get up here. So he and his wife drove up to this, this studio. Used to actually be our first office. I bought this house and he came here and I filed his claim, and he had been getting turned down or turned away from the free help because he couldn't prove his PTSD, because these free services want you to have a piece of tangible evidence, but nobody would do the work. Well, I got on Google and found where he was in this typhoon on this ship on this day, pulled it, turned it into PDF, submitted it, and now he's 90%. And he spent 88 years collecting nothing. And so when he got his check, it makes me emotional to talk about it because it was so cute. But he came here with a Marie Callender's pie to thank me. And he said, I got to tell you this, and it's going to sound crazy and insignificant to you, but now we can afford the good cheese. We can make a good sandwich. When I heard that, I just went, wow, what we do is so, we're helping people afford good sandwiches. They fixed their roof and their porch. They went on a vacation. They had a little bit of breathing room. That room I'm talking about, that's our job, is to make room and space for people to be able to successfully live their lives. And I've stayed in touch with them, this whole time. But I think, we've helped, probably 500 people just in San Diego be able to become homeowners. We're breaking generational curses of poverty over people's lives. We're radically changing people's lives. Even, Aiden sitting here behind the camera, I got his dad in about 40 days to 100%. And then, he and his sisters could go to college and get a stipend. And their family had a room. They went on a vacation that they would have never have afforded otherwise. And so that's our purpose. We're not a perfect company, and I'm not a perfect person, but the work that we do is needed. The work that we do is good. And people that work here, if you saw the way that we celebrate your wins, it's really beautiful. If you could watch our chat every day, you would be blown away the way that we intentionally celebrate and talk about our good story.
So what do you want veterans to do right now to make a difference in their own lives?
If you're a veteran, sitting at home watching this and this story is touching you and you're sort of feeling hey, these seem like good people, they do good work. I'm like that. You might be like me, where you spent 11 years or 20 or 30, 50 years not being rated, thinking you don't deserve it, or you just didn't know. And you're watching this now going, maybe I should do it. Do it. Fill out the lead form. Get our help. Take us something. It's free to talk to us. You'll be all the wiser if you do, but stop waiting and start rating. Stop watching and start winning. All this analysis paralysis we get, the VA preys on it. And instead of the VA preying on you, I want to say a prayer for you, that you would have enough hope and faith and trust to take a step, take our hand, and get the help that you need. And that's it.